Hey, Dad.
Okay?
Yep.
Oh. Hello, folks. This is your favorite crab wrestler back at you again after a week. We had a good week. I hope you did too. One of the things I wanted to mention is that the size of crabs, that are wrestleable, are quite variable. There's the Dungeness crab, which is pretty small, and people get that for eating. And then there's the real little crab, which are millions of. We don't wrestle with those, but there are the snow crabs and the king crabs and things like that, which we take great effort and seriousness to wrestle with them and see what we can do and get them for. They're good eating, by the way. Whether you like them or not, they are good eating. You have to be aware of crab wrestling, though, when you're skinny dipping, because there are appendages that could be at risk with a crab. As you know, they have pinchers and things, and they like to use those pinchers, so I'd be very careful about skinny dipping around the larger crabs. So that's enough on crab wrestling for today. I want to talk to you about another item. There's a couple of items to kind of pick up on, and one of them is I found in my library another book. It's the other Bible. Well, now we know there's the Bible that we're all familiar with, and then there's the Ethiopian Bible, and here's the other Bible. This is full of books that were not put in the Protestant Bible or the Catholic Bible, as far as I know. Some of them came out in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I wanted to say something about the book of Enoch that was talked about in this book, and what this interpreter said, this translator said about Genesis 6:3 was that it wasn't just that the good Lord's Spirit was withdrawn. It was a punishment that it would be drawn so that we would not live for 900 years. We would live for only 120 years. And so far, nobody's made that I know about. But anyway, that's the reason. It was a punishment for the kind of behavior that was going on that he didn't really think much of. It wasn't in the rule books or guidebooks or the suggestions or whatever it was, but that was it. That's why there's only 120 years, but most people live less than 100 years. So there you are. There's another piece of information. I want to talk about some mystics. And mystics have been with us for well before the turn of the millenniums, before CE. They were BC, clear back in a couple thousand years before. And if you check the writings of some of them, you'll see that the mystics were alive. The Hebrew mystics were alive and well at least 1,000 years before Christ. And from that point on, there have been mystics all along. Well, since we're able to write and communicate that way, there's been much more on paper and in clay tablets and in papyrus that talk about the mystical side of life, and that is something that started early. Well, it continues on beyond the turn of the time that Christ came, that Jesus came, even though those figures are not exactly right on the mark. They've come after that. And so right up into, say 1200 AD, that's when a group of folks who were out of the Middle East, that out of the mountains of Iraq and Afghanistan, that were writing about mysticism and about interesting things such as teaching stories. They would put together teaching stories, and the idea of a teaching story is that it would convey information to the person that was being talked to or who was reading, but not directly. It was kind of an indirect way of getting information across. It's kind of like the thing where, you know, there's a joke, you hear a joke and you go on your way and then it hits you later. It's that kind of thing that the teaching stories are. And they're very powerful, and we'll talk more about that as time goes on. But the key word here is the Sufis. Now, maybe you've never heard of Sufis, or maybe you've heard a lot about Sufis. That's doubtful. But the Sufis are a group of people considered to be Muslim, but not Muslim. And they are people who do not consider the need for an intercessionary person to get them to the Lord God. In other words, they can get to heaven without all the folderol of another person having to lead the way, or having to say it's okay, that sort of thing. And I'm not saying that correctly, but you probably get the idea. The Sufis were ones that thought they could get to heaven, they could get to the divine ground, get to the Lord God without going through an intercessor, like, for instance, Muhammad, or like Jesus. They're all messengers and so on, but it's not necessary to be to go through them to get to the Lord God. The other thing about that is, I just forgot what I was going to say about that, but there was, it was a way to get to divine consciousness. There's a way. There's a book that was written by a man by the name of Morris Buck, and he listed a whole lot of people that he thought would have the cosmic consciousness. Now, the cosmic consciousness would mean that they were able to do and see things and encounter things that most people can't. But I'll talk about that more as time goes on. Right now, I probably filled you up enough with this stuff. The Sufis have belong to orders, generally. Orders meaning a club type thing, where they would be kind of going with the same rules and regulations and stuff. You've heard of the whirling dervishes? If you haven't heard of them, they're they're an order that they spin. They spin is what they do. And that's the way that they make headway into cosmic consciousness. And what happens in their spinning is that it's like they go into a trance as they spin and spin. And that's what the whirling dervishes do. And some other organizations like the Naqshbandi Sufis do things a little differently. They all have a robe that they can wear that is indication of their belonging to a cub, belonging to a group, belonging to a meaningful organization. Anyway, I want to talk about more of that next time. The nature of human consciousness and the Sufis, and how you get from here to there, and make good sense of it. And you don't have to go wrestling crabs to figure that one out. That might be a way to get something done for yourself. If you want to wrestle crabs, I mean, that's okay. You can win a pendant, what the heck, It's all right, but that's all I'm going to talk about today. So I want you to have a really good week, and I'll see you next week.